Hello everyone, it's your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, here with another exciting video. Today I am going to talk to you guys about how my day was yesterday, July 4th, 2020, and what my plans are for today, July 5th, 2020. So, without further ado, let's hop in. By the way, if you guys want to talk with me about anything, feel free to hit me up on my Discord, link available in the description. So, Kid Kaiju is now on my team in Marvel Future Fight. So I've been talking about Marvel Future Fight for the last couple of days because it's a game that I recently started playing. And when I first started playing, I was like, I want to make a team of Squirrel Girl, Gwenpool, and Kid Kaiju. Well, Kid Kaiju is now on my team. I already have him at a rank 1, mastery 1, level 40. So level-wise, I actually have him pretty close to Squirrel Girl and Gwenpool. Squirrel Girl I currently have at level 55, and Gwenpool I have at level 49. And I'm slowly trying to level up these characters to get them to their max level, get them all their ranks, and get them all their masteries. So that's going to be a process. It's going to be something I'm going to have to do over time. But I'm definitely having fun with the game so far. Speaking of Marvel Future Fight, I learned yesterday that Marvel Future Fight's Dimension Mission is actually a lot cooler than I thought it was. So Dimension Mission is essentially a mode in Marvel Future Fight where you battle against enemies from different dimensions every day and acquire rewards that allow you to level up your characters and to make your characters better. Now, what I didn't know about Dimension Mission is that every day you are fighting against like a different enemy, and that the area that you're fighting in would change, and the types of enemies you would change. And the types of enemies you would fight would change. Because when I was first playing Marvel Future Fight Dimension Mission, I noticed that each time I cranked up the difficulty, it would change a little bit, but the enemies would still be just about the same. It's just you may have like more or stronger enemies might appear more. But the boss was always the same, and the area was always more or less the same. But what I learned is that each day, you're gonna get like new enemies, and you're gonna face off against like a new boss. I thought it had to do with your difficulty. I thought as you cranked up the difficulty on Dimension Mission, that you would eventually hit a higher difficulty where it's like, well, those other enemies would be too weak for you, and that other boss would be too weak for you. So here's like a new area with new enemies and a new boss. But it's not like that. So if you play Dimension Mission all day, you're essentially going to be facing off against like the same enemies in the same location against like the same boss all day. And you'll be grinding that like one area the whole day. But if you play Dimension Mission every day, each day you get like a new area to fight in, new enemies to fight against, and a new boss to take on. So that's really cool, actually. I didn't know that that was how it would work. But it makes it where you don't have to level grind in order to like reach new locations or fight new enemies or fight new bosses. You'll get a fresh new experience each and every day. So a couple days ago, the boss was MODOK, and you were fighting against enemies in I guess just like a base, like a supervillain base. And then yesterday, the main boss was Songbird, and you were facing off against enemies in the Arctic. And today, I don't even know what the Dimension Mission is, but I'm excited to jump into it. I like that it's different every day, because now it's like I don't really know like what my characters are going to be doing. And I think it's cool that it kind of gives your team like a fresh new adventure each day. So I think that's pretty awesome. But enough gushing over Marvel Future Fight. Madde and I are now friends again. So if you've been watching this channel for any like extended period of time, then you know that Madde and I used to be like really close friends. We used to hang out all the time. She used to always come over to my dorm. We would hang out like day in and day out, like every day. I even ended up like marrying Madde and then divorcing Madde. A lot of stuff happened. We stopped being friends for a while, but we're friends again. We're like messaging each other again. We're on good terms. A lot has changed, but a lot has still stayed the same. And it seems like we're just like good now. And I'm pretty happy about that. Like I'm glad to have Madde back in my life. I feel like Madde is like a big portion of my life. Like I had a lot of my like young adult adventures with Maddie, like going through like college stuff and like going downtown to Huntsville and like going to like clubs and exploring the city. Maddie's part of the reason why I'm like so into milkshakes. She got me onto like drinking milkshakes and stuff like that. So it's just cool that Maddie and I are now friends again. So I'm hype about that. Okay, in other news, I finished my creative AI course. So my goal was to take a 2-week creative AI course, like a college course from the University of Arts in London in one day. What I quickly discovered was that the course wasn't particularly engaging, so I just did week 1, day 1, and then I did week 2, day 2. So instead of breaking down my coursework and doing it a little bit at a time like you're supposed to, just doing like a little bit each day over a 2-week period, I knocked out everything I had to do for week 1 on the first day and everything I had to do for week 2 on the second day. And I will say, the course is as advertised. Like all the things the course says it's going to teach you, it does teach you. And I do think the course is useful, but I kind of wish they would have structured it differently. And I also wish that you had more like hands-on work. Like I wish week 2 was only hands-on work. That would have been amazing. What they ended up doing is that week 1 is teaching you a lot like, it teaches you a lot about like how do these systems work, what are the types of artists who work with these systems, what is creative AI actually capable of, what are the different types of like creative AI and different ways you can use machine learning creatively, things like that. It also asks you a lot of philosophical questions about like, can AI truly create? Can humans be original? What are the limitations to what you can actually make with creative AI? What are like common misconceptions about AI and how AI works? So it's a really interesting course in that regard, but that really should have just been week 1. Week 1 should have been all of that. It should have just been learn like the basics of how everything works and how you're able to develop these systems and the artist and their experiences. That should have been week 1. Week 2 should have been actually just making machine learning projects. You only make one machine learning project throughout the whole course, and it's midway through week 2. Week 2, by the way, is mainly just reviewing over a lot of the stuff that you went over in week 1. And that just seems unnecessary to me. Like what I found is that when they actually like sit you down and go, okay, this is Wekinator. Wekinator allows you to very quickly make your own machine learning projects without needing to know how to code. And there are plenty of like inputs and outputs that you're able to download and install on your computer that allow you to very quickly train a machine learning model that's able to do what you want it to do. And I was surprised at how easy it was to use Wekinator. But they only introduce you to a few different inputs and outputs that exist, but I believe there are many more inputs and outputs that exist with Wekinator. And when they have you sit down and do it for the first time, they don't really like ask you to make anything specific. They're just like, make something with it. And I really liked that. Like I like the idea that they're not like, okay, so for your first project, you have to use this input, you have to use this output, and you have to make it do something specific. It's like you can do whatever you want. What I wish they had done is start week 2 with that. Week 2, you play with Wekinator, and you realize how easy it is to use Wekinator. Because it was extremely easy. Once I got my hands on it, I was like, wow. Like, I spent all of the first week learning about, like, how this stuff works and how different artists approach trying to create these machine learning models. And now that I have my hands on something that's made to make it like super easy to do that, I'm able to do it super easily. It's like I feel like I know enough about what I'm doing to be able to make the kind of stuff that I want to make with it. And it's like, that's cool. But what I feel like they should have done is after you make whatever you want with it, they should have then started trying to help you build a portfolio. So I think the rest of the course should have been, okay, so your first project, you just do whatever you want. For your second project, specifically use this input and this output, and we're going to introduce you to new inputs and outputs throughout the course, and have you experiment with using different inputs and different outputs to make different projects. And then that way, by the end of the course, you would know about like all these different Wekinator inputs and outputs that are available. You would have already downloaded and installed all those different inputs and outputs. You would have made things with them. You could like go up to an employer and say, not only do I understand creative AI, not only can I talk about creative AI from like an academic, scholarly, philosophical standpoint, but I have experience with it. I can show you what I can do with it. And I haven't just made one machine learning project. I've made like all these different machine learning projects that have a variety of different inputs and outputs and that do all these different things. That would have been more impressive. That would have been like a significantly better course. Now this is a free course, but I feel like it wouldn't have been that hard for them to do that. The fact that the only time you do mess with Wekinator, it's so easy to use that they just say, do whatever you want. That's great. That's great. But that shows that you could have put more of a focus on being like, okay, now use this specifically and now use that specifically. Within the course, you're only exposed to 2 different input types and 2 different output types in Wekinator. But I imagine that there are way more input and output types for Wekinator. And giving us experience in all those different inputs and outputs would really help, especially since you don't have to worry about teaching anyone programming. Because essentially, all the programming work for Wekinator is already done. It's just, do you have a creative idea, and can you apply that creative idea to making a machine learning model? So, since they already have taught you about all these different artists and inspired you with all these different ideas, they should have then let you build upon those ideas and make cool projects yourself. So that's like the biggest thing that I didn't really like about the course. I feel like I should have came out of this course being experienced enough in Wekinator and having a whole lot of Wekinator projects under my belt to where I could then like talk to my boss and say, hey, if we want to do some creative machine learning projects, like here's what I know about creative machine learning, here's what I know I can do, here's what I have done, and here are like ideas that I have for like how we can apply this to what we do. And I can still do that, but now I only have one project under my belt and I only know about 2 different inputs and 2 different outputs, which isn't as useful as it could be. So I don't know. Wekinator is cool. The course should have been more about Wekinator. I feel like I spent a lot of time talking about like, it should have been more about Wekinator, but that's just all that's on my mind when it comes to that course. It was fun, it could have been better. That's like the long and short of it. So, new DC Digital First comics. So when DC first started doing their DC Digital First comics, which are comics that come out like every week, and there's like a different comic that comes out each day of the week, I was really excited. They had like a Superman comic, a Wonder Woman comic, a Flash comic, they had an Aquaman comic, a Swamp Thing comic, they had a DC Superhero Girls comic, and I imagine there's another DC character, and a Batman comic. Yeah, and they had a new issue of all of these comics coming out each and every week, and they were really cool because you didn't have to know a lot about DC Comics in order to jump in, because they're not really directly tied into DC continuity. Like they could be if DC wanted them to, but they're clearly just kind of their own thing. So all you have to do is pick like your favorite character, pick up their DC Digital First comic, start reading from number 1, and you get it. Plus, a lot of the stories were pretty self-contained, so even if you skip to like the 3rd issue of the Wonder Woman DC Digital First books, you probably would still understand what's happening in the story as long as you just knew who Wonder Woman was. Now there are a whole bunch of DC Digital First books. We got a Harley Quinn one, which I'm sure plenty of people are really hype about. Harley Quinn is one of DC's most popular characters right now, who's also one of DC's fairly more recent characters. You gotta think, like, Superman was created back in like the 1930s, and he's like a mainstay of DC Comics. He's like the poster boy. He's like one of the best-selling comic book characters of all time. But Harley Quinn, who was created, I believe, like in the 90s, has skyrocketed in popularity. She's one of like DC's biggest characters, and it is kind of weird that when they started dropping these DC Digital First books that we didn't have a Harley Quinn book with them, considering the fact that Harley Quinn is so popular. But now we do have a Harley Quinn book, and if it's weekly like the other ones, then that means we'll be getting like a new Harley Quinn comic every week for the foreseeable future. And these comics are like fairly short, they're only like 8 pages long, but they're also fairly inexpensive. They're only like $1, and they're digital, so they're accessible to everybody, and you don't have to worry about having to go to a comic book store or even having a local comic book store. So if you're a fan of Harley Quinn or any of these other characters who are getting DC Digital First books, this is a good place to start. Like, to be able to start like regularly reading about these characters and not having to worry about continuity. So this is awesome. I'm actually really stoked for this. So we got Harley Quinn, we got Batwoman Supergirl World's Finest. I was very surprised by this. So World's Finest is normally a Superman Batman book. It's like their team up. In the New 52, they were like, it's not Superman Batman anymore. It's Power Girl and Huntress. So I'm used to them doing the dynamic of like, it's like a Bat character and it's a super character. And I'm even used to them doing it where it's like, it's not Batman and Superman, it's like a female Batman character, Huntress, and a female Superman character, Power Girl. I was surprised by Batwoman Supergirl, mainly because I'm like, oh, I'm surprised it's not Power Girl and Huntress. That's just the World's Finest team that I actually read about more, because when I first started reading comics, I was reading comics during the New 52. So like that's the World's Finest team up that I'm like more familiar with. And a lot of the Batman Superman World's Finest stuff that I've read is like old like black and white reprint large collection edition like World Finest Batman Superman adventures. But it makes sense that they would do Batwoman Supergirl because those are the characters that are on TV and that a lot of people are familiar with. They're both like CW superheroes. So I think that's pretty cool that they decided to make a Batwoman Supergirl team-up book. Also, I think it's cool because I felt like DC Digital First could really benefit from having like a team-up book. And I felt like when I was reading through a lot of these DC Digital First books that, oh man, wouldn't it be awesome if like each and every issue featured like a new team up of like Aquaman and like King Shark, or like Aquaman and Tempest, you know, like if they just kept doing that. And I like that this book is like a guaranteed team up book. Like there isn't a Justice League DC Digital First book, but it's like, why isn't there? Plenty of comic books are about seeing superheroes team up. So I did think it was kind of strange that most of these DC Digital First books aren't about teams. But now they're addressing that by giving us stuff like Batwoman Supergirl World's Finest. Also, deceased Hope at World's End. So we're getting some of DC's like zombie stories now as DC Digital First books. So if you like zombies and you like superheroes, but you don't want to have to like keep up with like current continuity, you can check out DC Digital First Hope at World's End and just keep up with the DC story that way. Because again, that's like the biggest thing about DC Digital First. It's like quick to read, it comes out on like a weekly basis, and it's fairly inexpensive, and it's digital. So making DC Digital First versions of all these different books is really, really good for new audiences. It makes it extremely easy to get into these characters. I'm not a big zombie person. I haven't paid any attention to the normal deceased books that are coming out, Will I give this a shot? Probably not. I don't really care, if I'm being honest. But do I think other people will? Yeah. I have friends who used to read comics or have an interest in comics who are really into like zombie stuff, and this is the kind of thing that I would push their way. Like, it's only like $1, it's only like 8 pages, it'll come out on like a regular basis. If you want to get like your superhero fix and your zombie fix, here you go. Like, it's really helpful for me for trying to recommend comics to other people. Next up, we got Titans. That's right. Teen Titans, well, I guess Titans, because they're not necessarily teenagers. Titans now has its own DC Digital First book. And this goes back to what I was talking about before. How we didn't have any like team-up books before for DC Digital First. And now we're getting more straight-up just team books. Like, if you want to read about groups of characters, you can now. So I'm pretty excited about that. And this is one of the DC Digital First books, like newly announced books, that I'm personally interested in reading and checking out. Then we got From Beyond the Unknown. Now, if you look at the cover of this, you'll be like, Green Lantern got a DC Digital First book? That's not the case. From Beyond the Unknown is DC Digital First introducing like a sci-fi book where it's like any science fiction characters from DC Comics cosmology can like appear and star in their own story. So like some of them will be about Green Lantern, some of them will be about like the Legion of Superheroes. I wouldn't be surprised if they did one on like Adam Strange, or even if like the Atom like had one. Like any like DC science fiction stories they want to tell, they can just throw it into From Beyond the Unknown, and that way, if you're just a science fiction fan who's trying to get into DC Comics and to get into superhero fiction, there's always a book for you. And again, that's what I really like about DC Digital First. It comes out every week, so you're regularly getting more content, and by making books that are targeted at specific characters that they know people love, and specific genres that they know people are interested in, it can help get them into comic books a lot easier than trying to look into like normal continuity. Because that's the other thing. It's like its own continuity. You don't have to worry about trying to like keep up with what's happening in the normal Green Lantern book, because it's just outside of that. You could just read this and you'd be fine. So that's another thing that I'm really hyped about. Next up, we got Ghost. And again, if you look at the cover of this book, you might be like, yo, is that John Constantine? Did John Constantine get a DC Digital First book? No. This is like DC's superhero, supernatural comics. So if they ever want to tell like a Justice League Dark story, it would probably be in Ghost. If they want to tell like a Dead Man story, it would be in Ghost. They actually have a Spectre story already that's like a DC Digital First Ghost comic. So like my friend Kaylee, she's super into like horror and stuff like that. She would probably like Ghost. A matter of fact, a lot of my friends are into like supernatural fiction and stuff like that. Ghost would probably be like the go-to book for them. Again, they're just like appealing to like more audiences, and I think that's really cool. And I like that these books are regularly released, and I want to promote these to help get more people into comics. So moving away from these DC Digital First books, let's talk about Avengers Empyre. So there's a big Marvel event happening right now that's just now starting up. It's being written by the guy who is currently working on the Immortal Hulk series, which is critically acclaimed. Everybody loves it. He essentially took the Incredible Hulk and brought him back to his roots as like a horror comic character, and everybody is just like, Al Ewing, Immortal Hulk, oh, it's so good. So now Al Ewing is writing this event, and the event is really interesting, but I feel like a lot of readers will probably want some context in order to better understand what's going on in this event. So I'm going to try and provide that context by reading a description that I wrote down of the event in my notes. So if we jump back into my notes, I wrote down the Skrulls, the Kree, and the Kotati are 3 like alien races within the Marvel Comics cosmology. The Kree and the Kotati used to like coexist with each other. Like they used to live together. The Skrulls were a more advanced alien race that essentially offered the Kree and the Kotati access to their advanced technology. but only if they could impress the Skrulls. And the Skrulls essentially said, we'll only give the technology to the Kree or the Kotati, which made the Kree and the Kotati essentially compete against one another to try and impress the Skrulls in different ways. So the Kree tried to make like this massive technologically advanced like citadel or whatever, trying to show like, hey, like you guys may have more advanced technology, but with the technology we do have, this is what we're capable of. Whereas the Kotati, who are like these alien plant creatures, they're kind of like Groot, but they're not like Groot. They have leaves on their body, but they're pretty similar to Groot. Anyways, the Kotati, they make like this beautiful forest or whatever. Like they use their connection with nature to make something that isn't technological at all. It's just like a very natural, beautiful thing. And it kind of speaks to the Skrulls, because when you think about it, the Skrulls have more advanced technology than the Kree and the Kotati. So by the Kree going, we'll impress you by showing you our technology that's worse than yours, the Skrulls are kind of like, we already know that you have worse technology, that's why we're offering you more advanced technology. And then they look at the Kotati and they're like, ooh, we have advanced technology, but we don't have this like crazy alien forest stuff that you guys are making. That seems cool. They're like, I actually vibe with that. They're like, the Kotati, we're gonna give you our advanced technology. And the Kree are having none of that. So the Kree declare war on the Kotati and the Skrulls. And at the time, the Skrulls were like a peaceful alien race that just went around and like offered like advanced tech and stuff. So even though they're more technologically advanced than like the Kree and the Kotati, the Skrulls aren't necessarily like going around guns a-blazing or anything. So when the Kree roll up on them, the Skrulls aren't prepared, even though they're more advanced. So the Kree start like taking down Skrulls, and they essentially like kill off most of the Kotati. So if you jump many years later, the Kotati are more or less extinct, with like very few remaining members. They're very weak compared to the Skrulls and the Kree. Now the Skrulls and the Kree have been at war for like millennia, but there is now a new ruler of the Skrulls and the Kree, and his name is Hulkling. So Hulkling is one of Marvel's Young Avengers heroes. He's essentially like a alien hybrid who's able to shapeshift, and he normally takes on the appearance of like a young Hulk. But he's pretty powerful. He is now the ruler of the Skrull and the Kree. So he rules over both factions, but he's also being puppeted. So even though we know that Hulkling's like a good guy and that he like loves the Earth and he protects the Earth all the time with the Young Avengers, he's being manipulated essentially by like the true leaders of the Skrull and the Kree. So even though you think that if he ruled over them that it would be for the better, that's not entirely true. So since there's always been beef between like the Skrulls and the Kree and the Kotati, now that the Skrulls and the Kree are one, they're like allied with each other, they're like, well, let's mobilize against our common enemy, the Kotati. Like if we're friends, then that means the Kotati are our enemy. So let's just wipe them out once and for all, since the Kotati are already weak. Now you may be like, who cares? You could say, I don't really care about the Kree, I don't really care about the Skrulls, and I don't really care about the Kotati. Well, that's why the Avengers are involved. So one of the last remaining Kotati is this guy known as the Cosmic Messiah. And the Cosmic Messiah just recently grew into an adult, and he's apparently, supposedly, capable of wiping out all evil in the universe. Like if he's just allowed to like continue to grow, he should be capable of literally being the Cosmic Messiah. Like just being like, there's no more evil ever in the Marvel Universe. But as you can tell, he's still trying to like develop his power further. It's not like he can wipe out all evil in the universe right now, because if he could, he would just do it. But before he's really capable of growing into his role as Cosmic Messiah, now the Kroll and the Scree, how did I mess up their names that badly? The Skrulls and the Kree are now working together to try and wipe out the Kotati. So he's like, they're coming with like a full fleet of like warships, and they're being led by this shapeshifter named Hulkling, and he's not really powerful enough to stop them, and he has no time to really call in like any assistance. The Avengers are already like hanging out with him on the blue side of the moon, which is this thing in Marvel Comics where there's a small portion of the moon where you can breathe. So they're hanging out with him on the blue side of the moon, and he's like, I need your help to keep me from dying, because if I die, all of the Kotati die off, and we lose the Cosmic Messiah, so we can't get rid of all evil in the universe. So the Avengers believe the Cosmic Messiah. They're like, we think he could actually remove all evil from the universe. Thor and the Cosmic Messiah are actually friends. Thor is like, I remember when you were younger and I fought alongside you before. He's like, I definitely trust you. Like, if he says that he can remove all evil from the universe, I think that's true. And Iron Man, who's all about like science and technology, who isn't normally super religious, is getting in his feelings. He's like, I actually think I have faith in this like Cosmic Messiah. Like, he's like, while I'm not normally necessarily like the most religious person, he's like, I think this Cosmic Messiah legitimately can get rid of all evil in the universe. So if the Skrull and the Kree are trying to wipe out the Cosmic Messiah, then they're an enemy not only to the Kotati, but to the Avengers and to the entire universe at large. Because if you're against the Cosmic Messiah, then you're against wiping out all evil in the universe. So you're on the side of all evil in the universe. So the Avengers alone are like, we're going to help protect the Cosmic Messiah from this huge army of like incredibly advanced alien warships and Hulkling. And it's revealed at the end of Avengers Empyre issue number 0 that the Fantastic Four appear to be on the side of Hulkling and the Skrulls and the Kree. So it's the Avengers versus the Skrulls, it's the Avengers versus the Kree, it's the Avengers versus Hulkling, and it's the Avengers versus the Fantastic Four on the moon with alien plant people. And that's what Avengers Empyre is supposedly going to be. So that's crazy. And I'm kind of interested in checking it out. Let me know if you're interested in checking it out, because to me it sounds pretty cool. Also last night, I heard some fireworks going off. Of course, it was the 4th of July. So I looked out of my window, but instead of seeing fireworks, I actually live next to a pond, and I saw a lot of fireflies out at night. And I normally don't see a lot of fireflies at night when I look out at the pond. But they were lighting up around the pond, and it looked really nice. And I was like, this is kind of like natural fireworks. Like, it's cool to see them all gather when I don't normally see that many fireflies out on the 4th of July. It's like I have like a natural fireworks show. So I thought that was cool. I didn't take any pictures, though. The reason why I didn't take any pictures, for one, I wasn't outside. I was looking out my window. So I didn't want to go outside to have to like take a picture of them. And then two, I've tried taking pictures of stuff like this before, and it never turns out well. Like, the images never look the way that I would hope. Like, I've tried to take a picture of a butterfly before, and most of the time when you look at a butterfly, you can see them with their wings open pretty clearly. But because a photo only captures like a brief moment, a lot of times if you try to take a picture, you'll catch it and you can't see the butterfly's wings clearly, like they're moving too fast. And I just felt like if I tried to go outside to take a picture of the fireflies, that I would probably take a picture and it'd just be black. Like, I would happen to take the picture right at the moment where none of them are lit up or something like that. And I could have done a video, but this format of video that I do for like, how is my day today and what are my plans for the day, it just uses a bunch of images. So if I did do a video, I'd have to like change the style of this video to accommodate it, and the video would be really short because it would just be like here's some fireflies outside. You guys have seen fireflies before. So I just decided not to take a video of it or to take a picture of it. So that's how my day was yesterday. All in all, my day was pretty fun. I enjoyed all those things that I've been talking about from yesterday. Now let's talk about what my plans for today are. So I enjoyed some milkshakes. I exercised, ate, and cleaned the kitchen. I took a shower. I brushed my teeth. I picked up my laundry from my dad's house. I'm making a video right now about my day yesterday and my plans for today. I messaged my mom to check in with her. Mom, yesterday for the 4th of July, she grilled, but she grilled breakfast food. So instead of like going to the stove and making breakfast on the stove, she made breakfast on the barbecue grill, and she said it was actually really good. And I thought that was a cool idea. That's like an interesting way to celebrate the holiday. Let's see. I'm hoping to read some comics today. Probably those DC Digital First comics I was telling you about before, and Avengers Empyre. I have watched multiple videos about Avengers Empyre. I actually haven't read Avengers Empyre. So I may or may not read it, because as far as I'm aware, there's like a prequel book that came out, and then there's Avengers Empyre number 0, and supposedly they either have made or they're going to make a comic that talks about why the Fantastic Four is on the side of the Skree and the Skrull. Not the Skree, the Skrulls and the Kree and Hulkling. I keep wanting to combine Skrull and Kree together because they sound similar, and now they are on the same side, so it's weird. It feels like they should be combined because they just are in alliance with each other. But those are probably some of the comics that I'm going to look at today. Also, I need to make a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel deck. That way I'll be able to Rush Duel with John Mason. I know that's something he's been really hype about, and he's been wanting to Rush Duel together, and I want to Rush Duel with him. I just need to try and get a deck together because soon my vacation will be over. My vacation will actually end tomorrow, July 6, 2020, meaning that I'll be going back to work on Tuesday, July 7th, 2020. So I need to make that deck so that hopefully either today or tomorrow while I'm still on vacation, we'll have time to do a Rush Duel. Of course, I want to try and make more videos today. I always am coming up with like new video ideas, and a few of my friends are working on videos that I want to make reactions to. So I definitely have stuff to make videos about. I just need to sit down and actually make those videos. And I want to level up my characters in Marvel Future Fight. So I'm excited to see like what's the new Dimension mission, how is that gonna go, what is gonna be like the new boss, what are the new enemies, what's the new location like. I'm excited. I like that it's like daily content that's continually updated. But what are you guys' thoughts? What are you guys doing today? And how is your day today? Did you guys have a fun 4th of July? Do you have any questions about any of the things that I discussed in this video? Definitely let me know in the comment section below. And if you want to talk about anything that we discussed today on the video, feel free to message me about it on Discord. But I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you guys like this video, make sure to smash that like button, favorite, comment, subscribe, and ding ding ding, ring that notification bell to be notified whenever we do these videos. This is your host, your friend, your boy, Jet Black, the one and only, logging out. Peace, guys. Chicka da gal.